goodness. Oh, can you still hear?
Mine is actually got the green light.
So,
I can recap quickly.
okay, can you hear? Oh, dang. But this one.
I thought.
Okay, good now. She says good now. All right.
Okay, can you guys hear me clearly? Okay, so I'm going to recap really quick, okay?
Okay.
So, in short, briefly start from the top. Basically, I was narrating my picture, which was of myself at the age of 4 or 5, in a black and white picture of me sitting on the front steps of my childhood home, basically with my my elbows on my knees, and my head like this, is kind of like looking down to the sidewalk. And the picture frame is of a cartoon that I used to watch in my childhood called Ren and Stimpy. And that picture frame is of very bright fluorescent colors, which is completely the opposite of the actual picture itself, which is in black and white. And that picture frame basically has, in one sense you could say, 2 reliefs. One relief is of Ren, the other one is of Stimpy, and they're kind of doing something goofy in there. And so I was mentioning how, as I'm looking at this picture within this comical frame, or cartoonish frame, from a distance in a very dark room where there's a spotlight that focuses on that image of my childhood, that from the perspective of a visitor, observing that is,
Yeah.
and through the process of dissociation, my thought is not, or what I'm experiencing is not what the child is feeling in the picture, but what I'm experiencing, or the thoughts that I have in my mind, is completely different from the child. I wonder what the artist or the photographer trying to display or portray in this scene. Because again, the picture frame itself, it's so fluorescent in its colors and cartoonish and comical, and the actual photo, the black and white photo, is, I know what the situation was, but again, as an observer, you don't really see it as a harsh or intense scene, because the picture frame takes that bite out of the sting. It takes that, it takes the fangs out of the cobra's mouth, where it can't bite you now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that same bite that it had prior to putting that cartoonish and bright, festive, funny frame on it. So I was simply just mentioning that before we had lost sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope you guys were able to understand what I was describing there.
Yeah. So the exercise, and I really hope that only a small amount was like missed, because I think we did have sound for some time and then it stopped.
Right.
But anyway, the exercise was simply taking a traumatic experience, a difficult experience, a uncomfortable experience, and turning that, taking like the climax of that experience, and finding that image that encapsulates the whole thing. And as Joseph was mentioning, that experience for him was sitting down on his with his elbows on his legs.
And I was actually crying.
He was crying.
I was hurting. I was a kid, hurting very much so, because I was basically, you could say, either excluded or rejected from playing with the other kids. And they tried to fight me and take my toys. So as a child, it's like, come on, we're just kids.
Right. And taking that photo in mind and transforming it black and white helps take the bite away.
It was really the frame, making it the black and white, yes, and then putting that cartoonish with the fluorescent kind of glow in the dark kind of a feel, frame. Yeah, that took the bite out of the, the sting. Like if you eat a Serrano chili, but when you take out the seeds and the vein, it doesn't have that bite to it anymore. It doesn't have as much heat, so it kind of takes the sting out of the bite. I guess that's the correct way of saying it.
So, and the frame, depending on the person, the frame may be different. I know that when I had a traumatic experience, after I turned the frame black and white, I did like this plastic white frame. And then on another experience, I changed the frame of the image into, it was like this kind of shiny, kind of gold, like golden material. I changed it.
Gold and shiny, like metallic, shiny metallic.
Yeah. Wow. I changed that and then put that image in that frame, and I put that on the wall, the museum wall. And as you mentioned, it took the bite out of, or it took
the sting out of the bite, or whichever way it's supposed to be said.
It minimized, it mitigated the feeling that was associated with that experience.
Yes.
And I like how you mentioned that it was yes, the black and white did something, but it was the frame that
really helped take it to another level. Because if I left, for example, the original frame that I actually put, I'll tell you what it was. So the picture was black and white, same picture, but the original frame that I initial, right, same word. The original frame was high gloss, so shiny. It was all black frame with like that, I guess it's like a stainless steel or shiny silver, trim around the black. So like if you have like black and then on both sides of that frame, you have this silver trim. So it's like, it kind of fit with the mood somewhat, even though there was some shininess to it. But when you said to use a frame that did not mirror or reflect the same mood of the picture,
the opposite mood,
and it was complete opposite frame that I chose, and I was like, you said go ahead and think about it. I was like, too late, I already got it. Then that frame, when looking at that situation, it did change it. But I will point out that with an exercise like this, to keep in mind that it's not about ignoring or, thinking that what happened didn't happen, or to minimize it and make it like it's nothing. What happened actually happened, but it doesn't have to have the traumatic effect, the residual sting, or residual debilitating effect. It stung at that time, but it doesn't have to sting, forever, or it doesn't have to debilitate me. And in fact, I can look back at it and think, through other NLP techniques, how I can look at those situations and, see what other things were going on at the time. I can play with the submodalities. But just the exercise itself, any exercise like that, it doesn't have to be considered like, you can ignore it, or that it never happened, or negate it, People, we've gone through things, but again, it doesn't have to be debilitating for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and just to continue on that idea of framing, the most difficult discussion can be done well if framed properly.
If framed properly. Yeah.
So there were often times, and this is just me and my experience, where as an owner of a business, I had to let people go. And for somebody like me, I don't want them to go. I don't like to lose someone.
Yeah.
I felt that I was hurting them by firing them, and it would be very difficult for me to. I would keep somebody longer just to avoid having the feeling of, well, maybe maybe I can figure out another position, another role in their life, and I didn't want to fire anybody. And some people are much more, no, you're fired, like Donald Trump fired, and so, but for me, I was more hesitant, if anybody understands Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 9, so that means I like to make peace. So me having to fire someone was the exact opposite of making peace. It was like war, and that's kind of how it felt in my mind. And so one of the things that through counseling, one of the things I had to learn is that this is business. This is not I hate you, and this is not you're worthless. This is just this is no longer a good fit. And it took me a lot of time to get to that point where I can say, actually keeping them longer is a disservice to them.
Yeah.
Because and even in relationships, keeping someone longer than we're supposed to have them in our life is a disservice to them, because especially if it's a toxic situation, for either one of them, either one of the parties, then much more damage is being done to the one that's seeing the distress and allowing it, or feeling the distress and allowing it, and then allowing that other person to act as if it's okay that they're doing that. This is okay. So back to framing. So I had to learn how to construct the conversation in such a way where it was like a sandwich, like talking about the sandwich, where I noticed these great things, like you come on time or whatever ideal thing they do, appreciate that, and then this is the meat of the thing. This is the problem.
Or an area of growth.
Area of growth that doesn't appear to be fixable in the amount of time that needs that's required. But you're still a good person or whatever.
Yeah.
But we have to I guess still in the meat of the area opportunity, this is no longer a good fit, and this is going to be, you can stay till the end of the day, or you can leave now, whatever you feel, and of course, there are still things that are going to be said that are going to hurt, but they can be said in such a way where it's like, this person's actually my well-wisher. This person's actually thinking about my well-being. And even though to me it may seem harsh or it may seem abrupt, because a lot of times people don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah. Now you got the smelly sauce.
You know, and whenever that situation is happened, the better we are at framing a situation, the easier it is for someone to experience you in a better light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of times in society, we're very callous with what we say. And, I hate you, or you're no good, or
You're useless.
You're useless.
Get out of here.
You know?
Get your goofy butt out of here.
and this is, people become depressed because of others' inability to speak in such a way where it highlights, hey, you have value in life. In this particular position, the value needs to be reconsidered, or we have to do something different here. But you are somebody, And so...
I'm sorry, I think about Heavy D and the Boys. Are you that somebody?
I was thinking
somebody
I was thinking about Nutty Professor.
Yes, I can. I am somebody. Sure.
So, it's with these, it's us being able to frame something properly and understanding that we ultimately have the power in our hands to, even if it may be shocking or it may be saddening or disheartening to others, we have the power to still empower them and encourage them and still separate ourselves from them by framing something in a nice way. And I know some people are like, sometimes you can't be nice, too nice to people. And there are times where that niceness can be taken as a weakness.
That's a fact.
But generally that only happens when we do not set clear boundaries. So for example, there was one scenario in which, as an employee, that I fired him multiple times. And
he didn't get it right. He didn't get it the first time. He kept coming back. And you fired Jeremy. See you guys tomorrow.
His name wasn't Jeremy, by the way.
I know, I'm sorry.
But so
Bartholomew,
yeah, it was Bartholomew. So anyway, so I had explained to him, like, this is a problem, where it should have been he should have been going that time.
Right.
I said, hey, okay, so you know what we're gonna do? We're going to try this again. I'm gonna give you a new task. And failed at it again. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't have to pay unemployment, but let me give him something else. And he fell at it again. And I was like, okay, now this is affecting the business. So we had to have that discussion, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Thomas said, we must learn to use our emotions and not allow them to use us. Because, everybody's going to experience some level of, we're human. We're gonna experience emotion.
Yeah.
But go ahead. What song you got?
Jeffrey Osborne, I'm only human. Emotional. That's what I am. Make no mistake about it. I'm only human.
So we have like this. We are going to experience these things.
Yeah.
So even going back to the image of you like this, we're going to experience that because that is a difficult experience, especially as a child, because our emotions are so raw. You know, we only know love or hate.
Yeah.
You know,
That's it.
I hate this food. I love my mom.
Yeah, that's it.
That's and so it's not until we get older that we develop different emotions, right? And so because we experience these emotions, when we are in a position where someone's depending on us, and most of the time, a lot of people are depending on us, whether we know it or not.
Yeah.
So it's necessary to implement tools in which help us to develop positive communication, which a tool is framing.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to put a concept in a certain frame so that somebody can view it. Even though the image inside has a certain connotation, the frame makes it easier.
Mm-hmm. Yes. One thing I was going to mention as you were speaking, I was appreciating the example of the individual who, although you fired them multiple times, at least that's how you phrased it, but really you gave them, of course you gave them different chances, but you were also making sure that you did everything you could on your end. And you know, when I was in Kansas City, and I was with Dr. Holtzman, he was the senior guy over me, and I was right underneath him, and we were managing a project there. And sometimes you'll have some students in that program who they're just not getting it. And they may act out a certain way towards their classmates or even for the teacher and so forth like this, disrupting the classroom, just really just being a mess. And I remember Mr. Holtzman, because sometimes I was that person that was like, okay, we just gotta drop him, Mr. Holtzman, Dr. Holtzman, we just gotta just get him out of here.
Father.
But I remember in those conversations, he would mention the sandwich. You know, where you say certain things that are nice, of course, things area of growth, things that need to be worked on, and then of course maybe one other nice statement, just so that again the person understands that we do have their best interest at heart. It's not that we're dismissing you from the program or whatever like that because you know you're useless or worthless. It's just, you know, in terms of wanting to make sure that you're in the best situation or the best environment that's conducive for your progress and of course conducive for us, you know, and everyone. And so he would explain that, you know, just make sure that you were not negligent on your own end. Because if we are negligent, if we are failing to do something, for example, like if someone comes to a program and if I'm responsible to make sure that person's trained up so that they can be successful, and I do not make sure that they're being trained up, then I'm being negligent on my end, you know, because I'm setting the person up for failure. I didn't train them up. So we just make sure that everyone had everything that they need. It was one of those room and board kind of programs that we had in Kansas City where the students actually stayed there on campus and, you know, we made sure everyone's fed properly. And so I won't go into too much detail. Yes, I was just in short appreciating that you made sure that you weren't negligent on your end and making sure that the needs, interests, and concerns of that person were met. And then when you saw that, you know, there really isn't more that you can do and the situation is not going to improve, that you're able to frame things properly and making it very clear without it being hurtful, even though the person may feel hurt to some extent, but your intention was not malicious, is my point. But you being a well-wisher of the individual we're able to frame it in such a way where the individual can understand, okay, you're right. From this perspective, in terms of business and what we're trying to accomplish here, I'm just not the right fit, and I will go ahead and just take myself on out.
Yeah.
In short, so I was just in short appreciating that you were doing that.
A couple points to that is and sometimes I would say I would express my inability to find something for them that would best fit their needs. And so, because oftentimes I don't mind being, you can blame me, or it was my fault or whatever. And as long as we know, at least in this scenario, we know you're not going to be here after today, and you know that.
Don't look at me like that. Can't handle it.
It's not you, it's me.
Don't leave me. I'm sorry.
So
I gotta drink more water. That's it.
So understanding that, I'm okay with being blamed. You know what I mean? And of course we can do the best we can. But also to the point of, I was thinking like the 3 strikes, like even in baseball.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not sure how many other sports have like kind of 3 strikes. But yes, there are times where 1 strike can get you out.
Or, definitely. I agree with that.
But depending on what it is, 3 strikes seems to be appropriate. You know what I mean? And so it is that it is being able to understand, like, okay, this person is, maybe the system wasn't explained well enough, the first time. So, or even in a relationship, maybe I didn't express my expectations well enough. And then you can express your expectations. Right. And then after your expectations aren't met, and these are very clear boundaries that may have been set,
right,
and this person is pressing those boundaries, then okay, I have to make my decision. Now I need to frame it properly.
But I would say there's 2 sides to the coin, because the individual also has a responsibility. Like when I think of my different jobs that I've worked at, okay, just to give an example, I work at different jobs, different places, whether it's optician, whether it's driving reach trucks and forklifts and stuff like that, and lumber and building material, to insurance, to selling cars and so forth. And as an employee, knowing that the door is open to talk to management, and if I don't understand or know something, that I can inquire and ask, I'm not understanding this, or can you explain this to me, or am I missing something? Because sometimes, when, regardless of the job, the point is, it's up also to the employee to be able to use their voice and know when to ask for help if something is not clear to them. So that's what I mean by 2 sides, to the coin, because you could be giving a person, so many different chances, but then if they themselves are not saying, I'm not understanding this, or I ain't got it, kid. You understand what I'm saying? If they
yeah.
don't speak up, if they don't say, then they are hurting themselves. And then really they have no reason to be frustrated if they are sunset from the program. because again, it's business, a business relationship, you can say, a partnership or a team, and everyone is important in the team. You know, if one is not able to speak, meaning use their voice, then again they're just doing themselves a disservice. So yeah, it's not just one-sided.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the employee has to do their part too.
So this is actually a good transition into the second part of the discussion about telling the truth. And sometimes, you know, in the yoga system, there's 4 principles, and one of them is honesty or truthfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that, you know, with the progression of this time period, in some spiritual circles they call it the end of days, you know, that truthfulness becomes diminished. And so sometimes even those who seem like they won't lie and confirm.
Yep.
But,
That's a strong confirmation. He went all the way in.
so there are times, of course, when even in the yoga literature where it's like, okay, telling the truth is not beneficial at this time. But for the most of the time, telling the truth all the time is mandatory.
Yeah.
Because it leaves no doubt.
Yeah. And it removes a lot of unnecessary stress and headache.
Yeah. And so when we tell the truth, it makes things we don't have to worry about keeping a certain story.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's stress free, you know. You know, the truth will truly set you free.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about, did I say this yesterday? Or did I do that yesterday?
Siri, help me! I can't remember what I said the other day. Alexa. Hey Stephanie, you know
what happened? You know, but when you are honest in your dealings, then it makes it spares a lot of headache.
Yeah. It makes things effective and efficient, meaning you best use of your time, energy, everything.
And so I often think about how we often lie to ourselves.
Like gaslighting?
Oh man, we got a whole 30-gallon tank of gas and like a stick of dynamite and just gaslight.
I remember I singed my eyebrows one time. Gaslighting. Another story, I'll tell you guys about that another time. But
so gaslighting ourselves, telling ourselves lies so that we can feel good about ourselves or not come to reality. Was it back to life? Back to reality. You know, and so
I felt like dancing.
and so, you know, it is that reality. Sometimes it's very difficult to accept.
Yeah. That's true.
I think in a lot of relationships that I even had myself, that I was lying to myself. I was gaslighting myself and telling it's not that bad, right?
She'll change in a couple of days.
I'm really clumsy, you know. and so,
Go ahead, talk. I got a quote.
Okay. And so, but what it is that we don't want to see the truth in the experience. And so because we don't want to see the truth in the experience, we tell ourselves little white lies, you know, and these white lies are actually the most dangerous because over a period of time, they're devastating. Because right now it's very small, very small. And remembering some of the situations I put myself in. Nobody put me in the situation. I did it.
You did.
Yeah. And so I will recall after the experience that I was like, oh, I actually did see the red lights. I mean the red flags.
Yeah. Same thing. Red light, red flags.
Yeah.
You know,
And
warnings.
Warnings. Yeah, I saw the warnings, but
Danger, Keith Ewing. Danger, Keith Ewing.
So, but I chose to just tell myself something different. What was the quote you were?
So you had mentioned, like, as if something was maybe wrong with yourself. You know, yeah, maybe I am the clumsy one. You know, like this.
Yeah.
And so this quote actually is from Sigmund Freud, and I'm just going to modify it here. But he says, before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, or you can add to that by saying, you know, before you diagnose yourself as being clumsy or the one that's at fault, he says, first make sure that you're not in fact surrounded by buttholes. Sigmund Freud.
Wow. Yeah. And sometimes the lies that we tell ourselves are by the association we keep.
Make sure you're not surrounded by a bunch of buttholes. It's exactly that.
You know, so we keep a certain quality of friends.
How many of us have them?
Exactly. But we can't depend on them.
Friends.
And so it is this, so it's associating with those individuals who skew our perspective.
Yes.
And we end up lying to ourselves. And those friends could be family.
Yeah.
And we become influenced by their association.
Yeah.
And I heard my mom lie, or my dad lie, or my sister lie, my cousin, my brother lie, my cousin lie. It's a little lie, you know, not to hurt anybody.
Yeah. It makes me think of a very toxic situation. For example, in certain neighborhoods in Michigan, won't give any names, but you'll see, and it's really sad, that the male is either intoxicated or what have you, beating on the woman. The woman is telling herself, oh, he's just having a rough day today. He loves me. You know, tomorrow's going to be better. Like, she's constantly telling herself all these lies. And of course, the guy is like, baby, don't go. I can't live without you. I love you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's physically and mentally and emotionally and verbally abusive to her, and she's just constantly telling herself, "Oh no, he's gonna be okay. And he didn't sleep well last night.
Yeah.
I didn't have his dinner ready for him on time." You know, something stupid.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of those toxic scenarios like that.
And sometimes I remember the Dave Chappelle skit where he's like asked these questions in court, like plead the fifth, you know. So sometimes we don't
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
what if I say fifth? so sometimes we instead of having to tell the truth, we just don't say anything.
Yeah.
And that is still a form of gaslighting.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think it's honorable not to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you find there's a snitching thing.
Yes.
Snitches get stitches.
They get stitches.
You know, and so in the spirit of not snitching, we're allowing toxic people to continue being toxic.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're part of the problem, we're not part of the solution.
Right. And because we won't say anything, there's an unspoken code where we're not supposed to say anything. And Jimmy Bob, you know, can go on and continue beating his spouse or his girlfriend. It's not my business. I shouldn't say.
Get out of grown folks' business.
Get out of exactly.
Well, get out of other married folks' business.
And therefore, we don't want to say anything.
That's right, Jebediah. Tell them.
So because we have this unspoken rule, or actually it's a spoken rule, and this clause in society that some sets of people don't want to snitch, then you allow for improper behavior. But this is not. We don't know when not telling the truth is necessary.
Yeah. And then they go on, and then those people who don't want to snitch, then behind closed doors or somewhere else in other conversations, they just start moaning and groaning. And they have no choice, just like the great philosopher E40 says, everybody has choices. But they, again, allowing that situation to continue, and that gaslighting, self-gaslighting, we can say, and all that undue or unnecessary stress and anxiety starts showing up in their health and their body, their posture, the mannerism, the way they think, and so forth. And they're just deteriorating. They're falling apart. And they're trying to keep something that's not worth the effort of keeping together. They don't know how to let it go. I think you better let it go. They don't know how to let it go, meaning they don't know how to say, you know what, this is what's happening. Or what to speak of, you know, if they need to call higher authorities, call the police or whatever is necessary. They don't know how. It's almost like they don't know that there are solutions, that there's tools, there's options in which things, or ways in which a problem can be addressed, and instead they start falling apart. You know, some people, they really get into depression. You know, I reached out to one person the other day, and I wasn't able to pick up their phone call, and I'll have to reach out to them soon, but they were mentioning that they've been dealing with depression for the last 6 or 7 months. And you can hear it in their voice. And of course I'm worried as a friend, so I'm going to reach out to them later on today, but whatever it is, just got to let it go.
So I was mentioning how sometimes I know we've been talking about telling the truth, But there are times when telling the truth is actually harmful.
Mm.
There's a story of a mendicant that lived in the forest. He was a priest, and he was living by himself. And this couple, this husband and wife and their family, lived in another village, and the leader of the village decided, or was figured, that this couple was guilty of something, and so their penalty was death. So this family ran for their lives, and they went to the neighboring village where this mendicant lived, this priest lived, and the priest, says, yes, you all stay here. And so they stay there for some time, and they run. He says, hey, so the leader of the other village is looking for us. Please don't tell them where we are. And so this priest suggests them a place to leave, and because this priest has a vow to tell the truth, when the leader from the other village came, he says, yes, they were here. They went that way. I'll tell you exactly where it is. And the leader found them, killed them, killed the whole family. And when this priest died, he was visited by the inhabitants of death. And they said, this is where you're going. And he said, why? He said, I've told the truth my whole life. I've lived a pious life. Why am I going where these miscreants are going? And so he said, because you told the truth on innocent people who were being wrongly accused, and you led to their death, you were responsible. So he said, oh, okay. And so the summary of the story is that there are going to be times when, if someone's life is at risk,
especially if they're innocent,
especially if they're innocent, and you're telling the truth kills them, then at the time plead the fifth. But this is a very rare scenario. This is a very rare scenario. But it happens. But they say truthfulness is the best policy, or something like that. Honestly, the best policy.
Honestly, I don't know.
Honestly. So when we are communicating with people, we have to be truthful with them. We can't just, gaslight them, can't lie to them. So even if it's something difficult, a harsh truth, we frame it in a way that makes the point, lets them know we are their well-wishers, but this is where the problem is, or this is where the area of opportunity is.
Right.
This is real friendship, or this is a real well-wisher.
Right, exactly.
And so we'll conclude there. I know we kind of went a little over our time, but I just want to make sure that for those that watch this video in entirety, to know that you have repertoire, you have another tool to add to your skill set of helping with traumatic experiences and reframing it properly, and also about the necessity of telling the truth, or the honor of telling the truth, and so forth.
Super quick, two examples that came to mind as you're explaining that, or narrating that story of the priest. There's actually a movie, I believe it's in black and white. So in other words, it's a older movie where the setting was the Catholic Church. So the priest has confession sessions with parishioners. And one parishioner was a murderer. He goes to the priest and tells the priest, I confess I murdered somebody and this and that, blah, 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 blah. And the priest cannot tell anybody. And so the police is coming and asking the priest, but the priest can't say anything because he vowed not to share what was shared or confessed by that person. So there's a movie like that. And then the other movie is actually regarding Harriet Tubman. I can't remember if it was her father or it was some male figure in her life where she went to go visit him before taking some of the slaves and freeing them to go to the north. And the man said, I can't remember if he put on a blindfold or not, but he kept his eyes closed. So he said, in case anyone comes and asks him if he had seen her, because his eyes were closed, he can easily say, no, I have not seen Harriet Tubman. Because again, it's true, his eyes were closed. Even though he spoke to her and everything, but because he kept his eyes closed, he said, nope, I didn't see her. I didn't see her at all. So I was thinking of those two situations when someone, may have seen someone or know some important information, but they do not disclose it either to police or, in this case, with the Harriet Tubman, any of the headhunters, that they're hunting after slaves that are being freed, like so. It was a good session. I can feel my abs. I think that six-pack coming in.
It's coming.
Coming, I'm getting this six-pack, man.
So, all right. Thank you all so much for your time. And as always, if you like it, share it, comment. I definitely appreciate if you all come back. So hopefully, I imagine this session had some value. So just stay flexing on them.
Keep flexing. You come back now, you hear?